Hey, Scapegoat. Man, am I too early or something? People not expecting me for another half hour tonight? Hey, Red Room. Chair. I don't remember where we got the chair from. Like, honestly, I do not remember at all. Chantal was the one who ordered it. So I'm not sure where she ordered it from. Nah, not gonna lie, I gave real consideration to just skipping today. Not doing a live today. Looks like the one I'm considering buying from Amazon. I mean, she probably did order from Amazon. She did order, like, that's where she mostly ordered from. So that probably is where she ordered it from. I just don't know. Yeah. Gotta be honest, I'm not feeling great today. Feeling extra tired. Bit sore and everything. Probably gonna be like Sunday before I feel... Hey, Killface. Before I feel myself again, before I feel like... You know... Before my sore neck fades and all that. Don't feel... Yeah, I went to bed early-ish for me. And woke up late. A lot of tossing and turning. I think I was doing a lot of tossing and turning. Hey, Habibi. Yeah. Hey, Vanna. You know, waking up, going back to sleep, re-getting dinner. Cool, cool. I decided to order myself some Chinese for dinner. I'll do my groceries tomorrow. It's Boxing Day, I figure, you know, take a Boxing Day away from the grocery store. So yeah, I'll do my groceries tomorrow. Being a lonely banana muse way and a need to self-medicate way. Yep, I saw. Hey, Carlet. We'll see. We shall see, although... Mongol 2.0. I don't think we even have, like... I don't think we have the arm anymore. I remember I did have an idea for a sequel. Like, I had a vague idea for a sequel where she would go back out there and Ramona would walk up chewing on an arm. Walk up and I'd act like I was chewing on that fake arm. Oh yeah, I lied. Chantal didn't want people knowing she was in Canada, and she's entitled to her privacy. The light is... Chantal is entitled to her privacy. Is the big thing. If she doesn't want people knowing something, I'm not going to be the one to tell people. Yeah, she didn't want people knowing she was in Canada. I wasn't going to be the one telling people. So, yeah. I feel no shame in lying to protect someone's privacy. And I should say, like, anyone's privacy. I feel no shame in lying to protect anyone's privacy. And speaking of privacy, the person who doxed her can fucking die in a goddamn fire. And I mean that sincerely. The person who doxed her, I hope they die in a goddamn fire. Because that is just shitty, shitty, shitty behavior to do. Happy holidays. Yep. Anunnaki. I don't know. You were the one who... You were the... Or no, I think Rebecca was the one who told me about it. Yeah, I think Rebecca was the one who said that, like, some shit about IP or IP tracing. IP tracing by email or some shit like that. Take out insurance and nursing. Yeah, doxing in general is just such garbage person behavior. It's just... Maybe one day someone will invite me to a Discord so I can get info. Well, it's sure not going to be me, because I'm not getting Discord. wrinkly wiener advertising for Discord. Hi, Yorna. My neck and shoulders are so stiff. Hey, Bambi. It's gonna be like Sunday before my muscles loosen up again. Ugh. Don't know how to mod it. Yes, Grapecoat. I just want info, not friends. Fair. That's fair, Killface. I will need to figure out when... Because if I'm going to order books... Yeah, I'm going to order books on stream, so I need to figure out when I want to do like a book buying stream. Sometime in the next few days. Or like... I don't know. Maybe after New Year's? Yes, Grapecoat? Before New Year's or after New Year's? I don't know. I haven't decided. You're foodie? Well, welcome. Figure out later when I want to do the book buying stream. For now... My books and boxes, remember? They are, Bambi, yeah. They're all currently in boxes. Now that I have a bookcase, I'll be able to, take some of them out of boxes and put them on the bookcase. Though I'll need to pick it up. I still need to actually bring it home from my mom's. Next time I go over to her place, I'll need to, cab home to pick it up. And then I'll need to put it together, which... Anyway, shall we get started? Shall we resume? was in an info Discord and everyone was a bitch and it sucked. True. I was only in the call Mike one and I loved the info. There were several bitches. Alright. So let us resume. Let us resume the story. So, once again, just a quick recap of the story. We live in a world with normal people and abnormals who have to live in sanctuaries. We play an abnormal. We have the ability to let people see their future. We use it on ourselves to see our own future. And we saw ourselves married to a lovely woman named Piper. So we left the sanctuary to go search for her. We ran into a tall drink of water by the name of Duke January, who is being hunted by bounty hunters. He didn't really want to sit around waiting in the police station for however long it took for the bounty hunters to be found. So he wanted to go to one of his family's homes. So he's being escorted by us, Piper, and this NB here, Key, non-binary police officer, who had been doing some work going undercover as a homeless person in order to infiltrate a gang. And on our way to his home, we were attacked by some bandits. As one just wants to either refer to someone to be referred to as a tall glass of water. I know, it's a great description. It's a great description to use. A tall drink of water. So yeah, the carriage we were using got damaged. Couldn't, it was a motorized carriage, like the motorized carriage we were using got damaged. So last episode, we found a horse! We found Lewis the horse. What makes abnormals abnormal? They have abilities, they have powers. For example, we can show people the future. January turned out to be an abnormal. He's telekinetic. Ask the normals. Don't think I'm tall enough to earn it. You're a small glass of water. You're a small drink of water. Yeah, it's enough to be satisfying. Medium glass of water. The one I found by an oasis in the desert. Anyway, we're about to get moving. We're about to have Lewis the horse start pulling the carriage. Piper moves to the control area of the carriage and picks up some reins that had been fed through the now open front window. Mid-glass of cloudy water? Yep. She flicks them to encourage Lewis into motion, and the horse quickly obeys. Soon, we're chugging along once more. X-Men inspired? I mean, there might be some vague X-Men inspiration, just because it's hard not to be influenced by I'm a Dixie cup sample of water. The carriage continues to rattle along through the rest of the morning, not quite as fast as before. However, none of us can complain, considering the alternative of having to walk. Unfortunately, it seems like Key and January are enjoying the ride just as little as me. I can't stop thinking about last night with Piper. No one has said anything for some time, and I realize I would prefer having that distraction. I decide to ask Key if I can speak. Key, could we talk about something? This silence is wearing on me. Key seems to snap out of a trance and looks past January towards me.
I'm busy.
I can't hear anything outside. But still, I can watch out the window and would rather not be distracted with chit-chat. So, is that a no? Key slumps further in their seat, appearing to give up. You can talk if you want, but don't be loud. That's good enough for me. Does anyone have suggestions about what we can talk about? I look over at Piper when I say this, hoping she'll answer. Key and Piper both sort of shrug.
Well,
it is difficult to say. It is rather hard to think of a topic we would all be able to participate in. That's true. Maybe we shouldn't even bother. We'll probably end up arguing anyway. I hang my head, disappointed at the idea of being left with just my own thoughts. January, seeming to notice me, speaks up again. There is perhaps another alternative. Since discussion topics seem unwanted, perhaps one of us could tell a story while the others listen. Key seems surprised by the suggestion and pauses to consider it. That might work. Why doesn't someone do that? I would not object to that. Who wants to tell a story? For a moment, no one replies. Amazingly, Key is first to speak up. Why doesn't Piper do it? I bet you have some worthwhile stories from all that traveling you do. I suppose, but it's not like there will only be enough time for me. This is going to be a long trip. I'm sure there'll be time for all of us to share something. I would be willing to contribute a story if you all will as well. I can also tell something. We all glance at Key, even Piper from over her shoulder. With a sigh, Key nods. I'll tell one.
What do you think?
If that's how it is, I'll start things off. Then January can go next, followed by Key, and Jamie last. That was our name. That was our name in. Jamie last was our name in our life. That's funny. That's just a funny coincidence. Sounds good enough? No one voices any complaints to the order. Piper then goes quiet, appearing to think of something to say. After a minute or so, she gives a nod to herself. Alright, I'll tell you all about a find I made last year. It happened while I was exploring some old ruins. Locals had told me there were still valuables located somewhere in there, so I decided to check it out. I don't normally follow pure rumors, but this one seemed reliable. The place I found was all tumbled stone, thick with moss and plants. Deep within, I was about to round a large pillar when I heard a sound. I pressed my back against the stone, making sure to stay concealed, then peered around the corner. In the middle of a clearing, I saw 3 men standing over a hole they dug, and one of them was holding a solid gold scepter studded with rubies. When I don't eat my dinner veggies, I feel like a failure. When I don't eat my dinner veggies, I feel like a man! You want me to eat veggies? Fuck you! Meat and potatoes! Meat and potatoes! It flashed in the sunlight that filtered through the heavy tree cover, and I could tell it was a genuine article. One look at the diggers told me they were bounty hunters, rough types who do whatever they can to get a little coin. I'm sure they thought they had hit their lucky break with this treasure. But as long as you're out in the ruins, there's no such thing as finders keepers. I surveyed my surroundings and saw there were some trees nearby which overhung the clearing where they had been standing. I crept silently through the undergrowth, then climbed up one of the trees. Once in position, I quickly drew out some of my rope and fastened it to a branch. It didn't look like there was anything else in the hole, so my goal was to snatch that scepter and make my escape. Looking down into the clearing, I gauged my distance, got a firm grip on the rope, and swung down.
So then.
Real men value vitamins. I do have vitamins. Before the hunters knew what was happening, I snatched the gold scepter right out of his hand, and the momentum of my swing carried me up towards the branch of another nearby tree. I was feeling pretty good about how it went, until I realized that my swing was going to be too short. I reached the apex, fully 2 feet short of the nearest branch. I had to think of something fast as my rope went slack, making me swing right back towards the bounty hunters. I twisted myself mid-air to face them, and saw their eager eyes waiting. One of them even had a machete drum, likely used to get through the thick undergrowth around the ruins. I could tell he had a different use in mind for it then. As I swung down, I tilted myself towards one of the furthest hunters, then extended my legs just as I came near. He never expected it, and I struck him square in the chest, knocking him flat. Hey, Mary. I leapt from the rope, landing smoothly, and made a mad dash out of the ruins. I could hear the 2 other hunters pounding after me right away. I knew I could probably outrun them, but decided to play it safe. I ran until I found a good place to ambush them, then ducked into hiding. Just as they came around, I tripped the one who was unarmed, then rushed the one with the machete. He brandished the blade with fury, but I still held the scepter. We clashed, and I drove his lighter weapon away, spinning around to kick him right in the head. He fell like a log, and I finished my escape.
Regardless.
By the time they recovered, I was long gone. I never saw them again, and fetched a good price for the scepter. Sometimes I wished I had kept it, but it was just as well. After all, what was I going to do with a solid gold scepter besides fight off bounty hunters, of course? My, what a thrilling story! That was quite daring.
You know.
It was exciting, sure, but I don't know if you should have taken the scepter those other people found. Yes, that was nice. Thank you for sharing. Well, don't make too much ado about it. I may have added some embellishments. Really? Possibly. It sounds like something that could have happened, doesn't it? Alright, January's turn. The best stories have the most embellishment. You know, if you're gonna tell a story about yourself, you gotta exaggerate it. You gotta make yourself out way better. But also throw in some, like, oh, this, I screwed this part up. To make yourself look humble as well. Add a little bit of extra tension to the story. Lid dropped. Lid slipped out of my finger. Naughty, naughty lid. Or the cap. The cap slipped out of my finger, naughty cap. January actually smiles eagerly and adopts an almost ominous look. I have the perfect story to tell. It took place nearly a decade ago. I was living on the surface at my family's home, of course. You see, it is a very old building, and I was very curious to learn more of its history. I began by asking the employees, but none of them seemed to have anything meaningful to offer. Do I pay attention to fabric when I purchase clothes? Not particularly. No, I really don't. Bear in mind, most of what I get, t-shirts. I mean, there's some percent cotton and some percent something else. This was odd, as many had worked on the property for longer than I had been alive. Determined to learn more, I decided to sneak into my mother's office to see if she held any books on the subject. A quick perusal of the titles yielded little, but I began to feel my hopes dwindling. Then, as I checked again a bookshelf I had already passed, something caught my attention. This shelf had fewer volumes upon it, and behind them I could see a latch. Vanna and I had this conversation with someone yesterday in Discord. I pushed the books aside and pulled this latch, revealing a hidden compartment with a small box inside. Carefully, I removed the box, disturbing a thick layer of dust. I noted that it had been carefully closed with a wax seal. My curiosity rising, I hastily cut through the seal with my fingernail. Even as I did so, I thought I felt a change in the air, as if the room itself was aware of my intrusion. Slowly, I pulled open the box and beheld a tattered volume held inside. I had scarcely touched the book when I heard the sound of footsteps approaching. I instantly snapped the box closed with a feeling of utter panic at the idea of being caught where I was not meant to be, with a box I was not meant to have. I placed the box back in its hiding place as carefully as possible in my terror, doing my best to replace the books as they had been, then rushed from the room. This was only the beginning of my ordeal. That night I could not sleep easily, and more than once was awakened by strange sounds, followed by guards moving about the house. In the morning I asked what had caused the disturbances, and was answered that nothing was wrong and all was well. I felt troubled, yet could give it little heed. My mind remained fixed on that book. I managed to get to my mother's office once more that day, only to be surprised to see her there. She was not meant to be there at that time. I quickly made the excuse that I wished to know more about what had happened last night, but she gave me no real answer, stolidly perusing her papers. My eyes involuntarily made their way to the shelf which contained the hidden compartment, and I was dismayed to see that the books were not at all as I had left them. Without thinking, I asked if something had happened to the books. My mother sighed and said she did not wish to frighten me.
However,
she informed me that during the night that particular shelf had been disturbed, and the books had been thrown down pell-mell. She let slip that it being that shelf gave her a special concern, though told me to forget what she had said, and not to worry. I nodded mechanically, my mind wondering what I had done by disturbing that box. That night I once again found sleep impossible. Guards continued to move about. I was determined to solve this mystery myself. I snuck once more into my mother's office, now deserted, and with the gentle moonlight its only illumination, I went to the bookshelf, opened the secret compartment, and withdrew the box. No sooner had I done so than I felt some presence behind me. I slowly turned, when before me was the most dreadful vision of horror imaginable. The apparition lashed out, and I found my head neatly severed from my shoulders.
What?
What? That didn't happen, obviously. January starts to laugh, and Piper and I join in. Key looks less amused. Did you make the whole story up?
only the ending.
In truth, I did see a horrible vision. My own mother prepared to scold me. You may have guessed, but the real cause of the disturbance had been my nascent abnormality. Apparently, I had unconsciously moved a few things, which guards noticed and had to move back into place. It wasn't until late into the first night, when a guard happened to catch a glowing vase floating through the air, that they determined what was occurring. My mother told me this involuntary moving was likely because my mind had been excited by the mystery of the hidden box. Either way, I was sorely chastened for snooping, I assure you. So what was actually in the box? I never learned for certain. My mother told me it was old finance records.
Impressive.
I must say, you're quite the storyteller, January. It was better than I would have anticipated.
You have my thanks.
Thank you. I had taken the trouble of committing the recitation to memory, finding it amusing to be able to tell a ghost story in which nearly all the elements were true. Only the fact of my power's secrecy kept it mysterious. I also thought the idea of using it as a way to reveal my abnormality to someone appealing, if ever I find an opportunity to do so.
Oh.
Interesting. Looks like you're up, Key. Can't even assume new name brands are natural fibers anymore. Yeah. So a polyester jacket for $220. Yep. Polyester is my fast fashion enemy. I never wanted woodward, but breathability exit a chat. That comfort shit they keep shoving in my face isn't even 100 cotton. They want 120 for a hoodie. Potted Plant! Hey, Potted Plant Gaming. Welcome back. Interesting that you come in during a gaming stream. You come back during a gaming stream. We're on the run from bounty hunters and telling each other stories, is what's happening in the game. Fine. I thrift probably 75% of my wardrobe and only buy natural fibers now. Lasts me for years. Yeah, I just don't pay attention to what I don't really pay much attention to what I'm getting. You've really blossomed, PPG. Yeah, I pay no attention to the fabrics of the clothes I buy. I just, ooh, I like the design on that t-shirt, I'll get that t-shirt.
So...
Not saying you're fat. Fine. This happened when I was a kid. It was afternoon, and me and a couple of friends were out and about. We had sticks and were playing some kind of pretend game. I can't remember what it was. Anyways, one of my friends spotted this doll on the ground and picked it up. We recognized it. It belonged to the little sister of the oldest kid in town. I knew this kid and I liked them. Thought they were neat. So we decided to go and return the doll. We couldn't think of a way to find the sister ourselves, so we decided to just walk across town and take the doll to her house. I knew where it was, so I led. After a little while, it started to rain and we had to take shelter under a shop awning. My two friends wanted to give up and go home, and I told them they could if they wanted, but I was going to take the doll back. I guess that was enough for them, because when I ran out into the rain again, they ran with me. We got lucky that it was just a short shower, and soon the sky had cleared up again. Though, not so good, was that the place was dirty, and now the road was basically all mud. I didn't care, I just kept going, and my two friends kept following without trying to stop me. By the time we made it to the house, we were soaked and covered with grime. At the house, I saw the family dog coming towards us. A big kind of dog. The dog recognized me and started to jump up to play. In the tussle, the doll fell out of the pocket where I'd been keeping it. The dog snatched it up right away and started shaking around. I hardly knew what to think. I was so shocked. I grabbed hold of the doll and tried to pull it free from the dog, but it wouldn't let go. Finally, the doll's arm came off the dog's mouth, leaving me with the rest of the doll. I started to cry, and the dog dropped the arm and ran off. One of my friends picked up the arm and said we could always sew it back on. I looked at him for a while, and eventually he gave me the doll's arm. I just threw it on the ground and kept crying even louder than before. My friends looked really confused, like they didn't know what had gone into me, because they didn't. Just then I saw the older kid coming out of their house. They must not have seen what had happened, because they asked us what was the matter. My two friends explained things while I kept sniffling, watching the older kid. Eventually the older kid picked up the doll's arm again and gave it to me, saying they could sew it back on. I told them I couldn't sew. The older kid straightened up at this and said they could, like they were really proud of it. They took my hand and we walked into their house. My two friends followed too, not knowing what else to do, I guess. Now, just so you don't get any ideas, I wasn't really crying back there. I was doing that because I didn't want anyone to help me except the older kid. When I saw that ripped arm, I thought I could use that as an excuse to talk to them. I knew they made that doll themselves. And that's about it for my story. Hey, Buttercup. We all laugh at Key's explanation.
Interesting.
Now that was unexpected. Did you have feelings for that kid? Key's face actually reddens a little. Probably. I'm surprised you told such a charming story, Key. It seemed like the right fit after those first two stories. Lighten the mood. Besides, being on this trip reminded... Never mind, it's not the same. Key stops themselves before saying more. Then they turn to me. Alright, your turn now. January smiles and nods at me. I look around at everyone and wonder what kind of story I should tell. It's against the rules to tell normals about abnormal life. On the one hand, Piper and I will be married, and she already seems to know something of abnormal society, plus January is abnormal. On the other hand, he's never actually lived in our society, and Key has no business knowing about it. Then again, the other stories were, mostly, true. I mean, you gotta tell a true story, right? We gotta be honest. Key's trustworthy. Key won't tell anyone. I'll just be careful about what I mention. Though what could I even tell? I would not call anything in my previous life in the sanctuary particularly noteworthy. Oh, wait. I think I know. Understood. This story is about how I met Dog Healer, the person I would say I was closest with back in the walled sanctuary. Hey, Uncle Buck. Dog Healer wasn't from Vespin. It only came to live at the sanctuary in their late childhood, because we were in need of more healers. I had never seen anyone new coming to the sanctuary who wasn't an infant, so I wanted to meet them. I had gone off on my own to catch a glimpse, and I eventually found them, but not in any of the places they should have been in. Instead, they were hiding in a corner by the bridge. Well, trying to hide anyway. Life with Ron! Thank you for 5 gift memberships, Ron! Congratulations to 5 people who aren't here. Mainly Maine, Fry Bread Annie, Patty Cake, Tizzy Dawn, and Space Oddity. I know 3 of those people. Mainly Maine, I don't think I've ever seen in chat. Fry Bread Annie, I don't think I've ever seen in chat. Patty Cake, I don't think it's been around for a while. Tizzy Dawn, I don't think it's been around for a while. And Space Oddity, I don't think it's been around for a while. But thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the gift memberships. Sorry, Buttercup. And Vanna, thank you for the photo of a mirror surrounded by My Little Pony dolls. Instead, they were hiding in a corner by the bridge. Well, trying to hide anyway. Their red cloak was hard to... Thank you for 5 more! Dogs Plus Life, N2 Surgery, The Last Nashi, Spooky Coochie, and Kristen. Again, 2 of them. N2 Surgery, I think, doesn't come around very often. Last Nashi. Last Nashi... Does Nashi still come around? Yeah, Nashi still shows up now and then, right? Yeah, Last Nashi still shows up now and then. The other 3, again, no idea who they are. Absolutely no idea who Spooky Coochie is. Hey, Ronnie, you're so fine, you fun mind. Hey, Ronnie. Hey, Ronnie! Anyway. Their red cloak was hard to miss, even in the shadows. When I first approached, they jumped in fear, but when they saw who I was, they calmed down. I was smaller than them, and we were, presumably, close in age, so I think that's why they weren't so worried. I sat on the ground next to them and asked if they knew who I was. They said that they had been told of the purple cloak of a seer, and that they'd seen a buffalo mask before. I was glad to hear it, and I told them I also knew about their red healer color and dog mask. They didn't say anything after that, so I tried to keep them talking by mentioning how they would be living in the sanctuary now. All they did was nod. I asked them if they were happy about that. Another nod. I thought about asking them to talk of their old home, but I realized questions weren't helping. Instead, I got to my feet and asked if they would like me to take them on a tour of the sanctuary. They remained sitting and said that they had already been shown around. I told them it must have only been the practical tour. I was going to show them what made the walled sanctuary nice. This didn't rouse them, and they just looked down at the ground. I couldn't simply walk away at this point, so I bent my face down until my mask was just inches from theirs. Healer leaned away from me, saying I was crazy for getting so close. Still, it made them laugh a little, and they even stood up. They agreed to go with me, as long as I promised not to do that again. I joined their laughter, and said I could accept that. We spent the rest of the day together and had a great time. We continued to keep each other's company as much as a pair could growing up in abnormal society. Nowadays, Dog Healer is part of our council, and I almost never speak to them. Truthfully, I regret not having a proper goodbye. It all happened so fast, and I was so surprised that I didn't even think about. Anyway, that's my story. That was a lovely story, Jamie. Huh. I'm sorry you didn't get to say goodbye. I'm sure they understand. I hope so. Who is going to tell a second story? January laughs nervously. Key sighs and Piper just shrugs. After rolling along quite nicely for the rest of the afternoon, Lewis finally begins to flag. By then, the sun had already started to disappear behind the trees, and Piper announces that it's time to make camp for the day. Not ideally, we were still out in the middle of the old road we had taken, with no sign of a less conspicuous spot that fit the carriage on either side of us, or anywhere ahead. With no other choice, Piper brings the carriage to a stop and we all pile out. Alright, everyone go ahead and stretch your legs for a bit. It's been a long run. But make sure you're back near the carriage before it gets fully dark. January folds his arms, not seeming completely happy despite the leniency. I find it reasonable enough, and I nod my head in understanding.
Good.
Key then looks around, kicking idly at the dirt as if not knowing what to do now. In situations such as these, Key would normally retreat to the gadabout. I suppose they don't have anything else to do with themselves now that it's gone. After a few more moments, Key scratches their head and addresses us again.
I'm going to patrol the area.
Be safe. Key awkwardly walks away, and once they are out of earshot, Piper turns to me sharply. Why did you use the radio last night? I can't help flinching back in surprise. Hey, Jordan. I didn't know you'd heard that. What happened?
See?
Jamie used the radio this morning and Trinette picked up. Why am I not getting notice? Because YouTube's a bastard. January's eyes go wide with alarm. I didn't know it was her when I called, and I hung up right away when she answered. That's something, I guess. But what made you use the radio in the first place? I wanted someone to talk to, but didn't want to wake any of you. So talking to a complete stranger was less bad than waking us? It seemed like it at the time. What's this game about? Romance and adventure! We're on the run from bounty hunters. We play a seer. This is us with the mask. The buffalo mask. So we play a seer. We saw a vision of our future where we're married to this lovely lady, Piper. So we leave our sanctuary where we meet this tall drink of water, January, who's being hunted by bounty hunters. And we're escorting him to one of his family's homes. He's a duke, so he's got multiple homes. And we're escorting him to his home. And there's also an undercover police officer with us, Key, non-binary. January sighs, clearly frustrated, but looks at me sympathetically. If you need someone to speak with again, I really wouldn't mind.
Exactly.
Same for me. Even if you'd woken all three of us, it would have been better than what you did. My head droops. I did not expect such a strong reaction, but I suppose that is part of the problem. I hear Piper sigh, and I dare look up somewhat. The gadabout is gone, but if somehow you have the chance to try talking to someone you don't know again, do not do it. I understand. Piper turns around and walks off in the direction of Lewis, talking with her back towards us. I'm going to see if Lewis needs to be let off, or if he's alright staying hooked in. January and I stand in silence. Finally, the silence wears on January too much, and he simply moves on to a new topic. So, this spot seems worse than our previous camp. Rather uncomfortable being stuck on a road. I laugh a little, pleased to be past the uncomfortable atmosphere. Are you worried someone else might come down this path and get upset with us for blocking the way? Now January laughs. Not that. I mean only that we are more exposed here. And I worry that Key and Piper will have a difficult time finding places to sleep. Yes, it is not an ideal spot. I must wonder why there are so many ruins out here in the first place. I cannot say for certain, as many of these were abandoned years apart. Some are decades old, corresponding with the time Mia broke off the mainland faction. Most people moved into the city so as to avoid being left behind if the bridge connecting Mia to here ever broke. Other ruins could be hundreds or even thousands of years old. I appreciate the information, even though you added more questions than you answered. You're welcome. I peer over towards the carriage to see if Piper still looks cross with me, and notice that she is no longer working with Lewis. Instead, she's walked away down the road leading onward. Seeing her back turned my way makes me sigh. Check my DMs. I mean, Vanna sent me a DM, but I'm not seeing any other DMs, Dastardly. What is wrong, Jamie? Maybe they mean blue sky? In which case, I'll check it after this. I don't know what to do. Piper tolerates me, but she seems pretty certain that she'll never get to a point where she wants to know me better. It makes me unhappy. I'm afraid I do not know what else can be done. But I'm certain you will eventually figure it out. Before we can talk further, Key comes over to us. Looks like Piper's going to keep Lewis strapped in. I merely nod.
You alright?
What's with you? Jamie is feeling discouraged because of her difficulties with Piper. What use is there in worrying about it today? There's nothing you can do about it now. Then what should I do? I was going to say break time is over, but if you're that fuss, why don't you go talk to Piper real quick? I am stunned by this unexpected thoughtfulness. It leaves me unsure what to do at first. Eventually, I decide that... I mean, simping has not been working well for us. You know, crowding her has not been working well for us. So maybe just keep giving Piper some space. So what does everyone think? Talk to Piper or not talk to Piper? Honestly, not sure if it even makes a difference, actually. Play hard to get. Talk to her. Talk. So that's 2 votes for talk, 1 for not talk. So, suppose I will try talking to her then. And I appreciate that, Key. With that, I start to head towards Piper, thinking on what I should say.
Okay.
Since you're not having relationship troubles, January, you've got to go in the carriage now. I hear January laugh slightly at that, then open and shut the door to the carriage. As I get closer to Piper, she turns to face me, and her face changes into something terrible. I freeze, wondering why she's looking at me with such hatred. She starts to walk slowly towards me, and I realize it's not me, but something behind me. I turn around, only needing a moment to follow her eyes and locate the cause of her anger. Peeking over a nearby hedge is the half-mask of one of the goons, the same kind we saw back in Mier. They caught up to us. Behind me, I hear Key take a few steps in my direction, likely having spotted the intruder as well. Buck was right. As it turns out, it doesn't really make much of a difference. We don't get a chance to talk to her. Knowing the secret is out, the first goon rises up out of the brush. And a second goon appears alongside them. Key begins speaking in a low voice, their eyes never leaving the goons. Listen, we need to... Interrupting Key's words is the sound of the carriage door opening, and January steps out.
Move!
Get back in! Key's voice is insistent, without attempting at keeping quiet now. January looks around and sees the goons. He doesn't even appear bothered, and keeps walking away from the carriage.
This is no time to be stubborn.
Take care of yourself before it's too late. I agree. In this situation, it is best that you concern yourself with staying safe. These people came a long way specifically to attain you. They won't be as easily pushed over as the last group we encountered. January continues to look agitated, but his stance has become far less confident. It seems we are starting to convince him. Key interjects with a harsh whisper. We only want to keep you out of a fight. Is that too much to ask? Not at all, hon, because there won't be a fight. Even though we've only spoken thrice, her voice is immediately recognizable. I turn my head back down the path, and there she is. Trinette.
Cooperate, okay?
Be a dear and come this way, Duke. The rest of you can just stand there quietly, if you please. You all want to avoid violence, right?
January looks at each of us, somewhat unsure of how to react, but continues to stand his ground. Listen, January, the three of us aren't going anywhere now. You've got two options. Go with her, or run away into the ruins on your own. January's eyes widen at the certainty in Piper's voice.
I wouldn't hedge my bets on the second option if I were you. Needing you alive won't stop me from shooting your leg. You've got a lot of leg to hit, so chances are good I won't miss.
Fair. Piper looks at January, face a grim mask, and nods. Slowly, jerkily, January begins to walk towards Trinette. After January is separated from us, the goons rush forward, and each of them latches onto one of January's arms. January turns back to each of us, giving us an apologetic look. Piper and Key are glaring at Trinette, clearly feeling how powerless they are. I try to control my own feelings, knowing that January has to get out of it somehow.
Thank you.
Trinette then points her gun in our direction, and the glow of her eyes seems to intensify. Likewise, my breathing becomes more extreme. My eyes dart back and forth between Trinette and where she seems to be directing her weapon. It finally clicks. She's aiming at Key, who is closest to the carriage. Barely aware of my own actions, I move to get them out of the way. And she pulls the trigger. Man, we got shot for Key. We got shot saving Key, of all people. I hear the bullet crack the air. Pain explodes through somewhere on my side. I can't think straight enough to put together what part. The world devolves into a chaos of shouts. Lewis is whinnying in panic, voices are yelling at each other, and through the din I hear Key calling my name. I can piece together enough to know I fall to the ground. I close my eyes, lost in the sounds that continue to crash around me. Everything is dark. There's not a trace of light seeping through my eyelids. That's actually a slight change. Before I couldn't even tell if my eyes were open or closed. I'm more aware of myself now, though I feel numb and can't really move. The one exception is the pain I feel coming from the right side of my body. With my returning consciousness, slowly, I'm able to force my eyes open. I can tell now that I'm on my back, staring up at the stars. As I imagined, the sun had already set. My head hurts as I try to remember what all happened. I still can't make sense of it all. There is one thought that comes distinctly to my mind. Where is everyone else? Are they all here? Am I alone? I can't see anyone. Watch Deadpool and Logan? No. No, I don't watch channel. I don't want to watch movies on my channel because it'd be demonetized. Like those, I wouldn't be able to monetize those. So.
Hello? I'm glad you're finally not unconscious.
Oh, I'm glad you're finally not unconscious. I see a familiar figure cross my limited field of vision.
Piper?
She laughs softly, as though it takes a lot of effort.
How are you?
How long have you been awake? I couldn't tell with your mask on, even when I was right up close cleaning it off, but didn't want to remove it. I know how important that is to you. I wish I could hold a proper conversation, but I can still only manage brief sentences.
Where are the two?
You mean Key and January? I'll explain once you're ready. I think you need a little more time to get together. Not knowing is deeply vexing, but it is hard to disagree when I'm not yet capable of arguing about it. The first thing I try to do is get myself together. Is slightly readjust how my back is situated. There is somewhat of a pull as I shift as I shift my upper body in a small way. I realize for the first time that Piper is holding my hand. That is nice. However, slowly it strikes me that that doesn't seem like something she'd usually do. For now, I simply accept it. I wonder if she took the movement of my body as a sign to let go, as she does so almost immediately after I began thinking about it. Or maybe she somehow knew I noticed that she was holding on to it and felt shy over it. Again, it is too much to try sorting out right now. Hey, Scriptgoat. You know where we could watch it? The other thing is, it's Disney. It's a Disney movie. And I still don't want to financially support Disney. I don't want to financially support Disney, and thus... yeah. Either way, Piper positions herself in a more comfortable sitting position, but remains close enough for me to tell she hasn't gone anywhere. The two of us quietly wait. With every second, it becomes more and more apparent that we're the only ones here.
You like stories, right?
I can't bring myself to respond. Alright then, I'll tell you one. A story about me. For most of my life, I had one goal. I wanted to be a historian. Everything that happened in the past that led us to the world we had today was something I was passionate about. Hey, Morris. When are we going to watch or do a celebration of MLP? If anything could get me to get Discord, it would be to talk about My Little Pony while doing a rewatch. And even that's not enough to get me to get Discord. As for when I'm rewatching My Little Pony, only after I rewatch Sailor Moon. So I've got to finish my rewatch at the Star Trek franchise. I've only got the modern stuff left. I finished season 4 Discovery, so I've got the last season of Discovery, and then all the other Strange New Worlds, Picard. Lower Decks and Prodigy. So it shouldn't take 3 or 4 more months for all that stuff. And then I'm going to rewatch Sailor Moon. After I've rewatched Sailor Moon is when I'll rewatch My Little Pony. That said, for my Sailor Moon rewatch, I'm thinking of doing, the redub of the original series, and then, watch the newer stuff. Jim and the Holograms rewatch. I'd watch My Little Pony for you. Jordan would not. Fair. Jordan, fair. As for Gem and the Holograms, I don't like 80s animation. I just don't enjoy 80s animation. They did what they could, but I could always do a reread of the comic. Anyway, as I became older, I just became more and more realistic. Still, that goal of being a historian remained as the one lofty thought I had. The reason it wasn't realistic was because I couldn't afford the education needed to get into that sort of field. I thought that if I couldn't get a book education, I'd give myself a hands-on experience. But exploring ancient sites for historical reasons isn't something someone like me could be paid for. So I became the apprentice of a cartographer. Is there My Little Pony comic? Oh, hell yes! Dungeons & Dragons best 80s cartoon. Yeah, the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic comics ran a long time. I think there's still, I think, you know, minis and shit that from Friendship is Magic. It outlasted the show. Yeah, there's the main series, and then there's various spin-off miniseries. Or various miniseries. Hey, Rebecca. Yeah, feel free to be disgusted. So, Hack My Cat last night came in here being crazier than a box of hair. Rebecca, I will not feel guilty about lying to protect someone's privacy. I refuse to feel bad about protecting someone's privacy. I didn't get into the treasure hunting thing until after my mentor retired. I have a feeling they kept me away from it intentionally to avoid us becoming targets. It's not very likely we could have gone all that time without stumbling on anything. I used to have a Megan doll for My Little Pony. Megan would have been like a previous generation, I assume. Don't lie to your loyal audience. But it's to protect someone's privacy, sure. No matter what happened, I certainly found valuables when I began working on my own. The times that occurred, I took them without even thinking of what I'd do with them. I didn't know anything about selling expensive items. Going to get a bloody Sailor Moon Sprite Fizz drink. Check your twat VM. Bye, dastardly. First gen. So yeah, before my time then. Before I'm pretty sure that might have been before I was even born. It didn't matter initially, however, because I was robbed of them. Piper sees me flinch instinctively, and she puts her hand on my chest for a moment. It was all right. I didn't put up a fight, and they didn't give me a hard time, other than insisting I hand over what I had, of course. I wasn't deterred and continued my cartography work. During this time, there were long stretches of time where I was completely alone. I would often have debates with myself over whether I should try treasure hunting again. On the one hand, I could earn enough to go to school like I wanted to, but on the other hand, it was dangerous and I already had a profession. Why should I risk that, I would think? You were born in 77? Yeah. You downloaded the stream, Jordan? Good job, good job. With only my thoughts and the unforgiving ruins, I became even more pragmatic. Eventually, I stopped thinking about what else I could be doing with my time. To take care of myself, my only focus was on being aware of every step I took. A few years ago, I began taking treasures with me again. There was no goal for the extra money. It was simply the more reasonable thing to do, considering I had enough experience to handle it now. It is better off in my hands than those of a criminal. And that's how things have been ever since. Ironically, I did what I thought no one should do. I forgot about the events that got me to the position I was in today. It wasn't until this trip that it entered my mind again. And, well, I'm not sure if there's much of a point to the story. It felt worth mentioning somehow. I see. With the story over, we return to the near-complete silence of the night, but this time it feels slightly less empty. Finally, I can feel my senses coming together again, and I am strong enough to move. It still takes a lot of work, however I manage to work myself into a sitting position. Piper making room for me. I turn towards her and she looks at me in concern. You sure you're ready to get up? Yes. Thank you for taking care of me. She smiles, though it's not at all like her usual smile. It's sad, as if looking at me hurts her.
I'm sorry.
It was no trouble. I'm sorry, but we did the best we could with your injury. I'm sure you did. I speak automatically, still feeling a bit dazed. Did she say injury? No, of course. I must have been hurt somewhere for me to feel this way. Instinctively, I look over to where the pain is coming from and focus on my right arm. My vision is unfocused and I squint hard. I can't seem to fully understand what I'm seeing, but something does look off. I try to wriggle my fingers, but feel no response. Godiva chocolate pearls. Nice. Something about my hand. My hand. My hand. The shock hits me like a blow to the face, and all the haze vanishes from my mind. I clutch my right wrist and lift my hand into the air before my eyes. No, not my hand. There's no hand! I hear screamingly, and only dimly realize that it's me. My hand! My hand! I don't have a hand! But I can't... How is this? What is this? I don't... I have to stop to catch my breath from screaming. My body shakes and I feel tears falling behind this mask. When I speak again, the words hiss out of my throat. My hand is... gone. Yes, your hand is gone. The key's still running because of you. I laugh, the sound coming out in a broken way. Of course, yes, it's fine. I'm fine. Well, where's everyone else? Ah, look at the carriage, it's all banged up. What happened there? My words are spilling out faster than they should, and I know it. Going to put secrets in the tins when I'm done? Piper gives me that sad smile again and shakes her head. Alright, seems like waiting any longer won't be of help now. You remember Trinette coming to our camp, right? Rubbing Vaseline on my derriere. Ordered a new couch and it's being shipped out of Ontario. Means it's probably quality? "27-year-old son, 25-year-old son, 20-year-old son, 11-year-old son, 5 grandkids." Stuffed with my hair? No. Well, after she shot, you dropped to the ground. Key bent over to check on you while I ran over to the both of you. January seemed to forget what position he was in and instantly moved forward. Unfortunately, that just made Trinette's goons rough him up a bit. All the commotion got Lewis riled up and he started thrashing about. Chances are Trinette would have spent at least a couple more bullets on us, but things happened to work out in our favor. Lewis broke free of the harness and violently kicked the carriage away from him. Only Trinette was in the area behind the carriage, and she had to throw herself to make it out of the way in time. Lewis didn't calm down with just that, however. He was stamping around the campsite and kicking into the air, clearly in a panic. Trinette realized what I could see as well. He was too dangerous. Not even her gun could put down a horse that size, unless she got it right in the head, which wasn't likely with how wild he was.
See?
During this time, January was still fighting to get away, so one of the goons struck him hard in the head, and that stopped him. Trinette took her eyes off Lewis for a moment to see her goon struggling to effectively carry someone as lanky as January. She must have decided she couldn't properly handle the situation anymore. Not surprising, considering a horse and an unconscious man can't be reasoned with or threatened. She insisted on an immediate retreat and ran down a smaller path that headed back towards the city. This Steven? Her? This is Trinette. She's a vile bounty hunter, but she's also very nice to talk to. She's very pleasant to talk to. Here comes the hurricane, bitch! Her goons didn't hesitate to follow, though they had to stumble along while trying to avoid January's legs dragging them down. Lewis ultimately continued to panic and ran off into the ruins somewhere. Finally, with all the chaos gone, Key and I had time to assess how badly you were injured. We rolled down your sleeve, and it wasn't good, as you can probably imagine. Almost your entire wrist had been shot off, and your right hand was literally hanging on by a few strings of muscle and skin. We were both silent for a moment, but when Key spoke up, the conversation went like this. Piper, go through what's left of the carriage, find the first aid kit, and bring me the wound sealer. If it's busted, bring back as many bandages and cloths as you can find. I understand.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about this, Jamie. Key, I got the wound sealer. It's intact.
Thank you.
Thanks. Give it here. Sure. When I looked over at you, your hand was already gone. I imagine Key must have cut the strands holding it on with her knife. Either way, they didn't wait for me to mention it and started to apply the wound sealer. It took all the sealer we had, but it was enough to completely cover the injury. There. It's going to be alright for now. That's such a relief. Let me wrap it up. My hands aren't as much of a mess as yours are. Yeah, that would be good. After I covered your arm, I tied the excess cloth into a knot, so it wouldn't get in the way as much. We could have cut it, but I thought you might want to keep your cloak intact. With nowhere else to put you, we laid you down as comfortably as we could on the ground. Playing Crazy Frog in his belly this morning before falling asleep. Such good sleep. Aww. Key?
Understand?
Find Lewis, gather what supplies are left, and take Jamie back to the city once they wake up. Bring her to the hospital and let the police know what happened. So you intend to go after them? Yes. Usually I wouldn't even consider leaving part of the group to manage on their own, but I'm sure you can handle it. And you don't need to suggest that you go after them instead. I don't know how to ride a horse. Stay safe. Goodbye, Key. You too. They left without another word, and then it was just the two of us. Luckily, Lewis hadn't wandered far, and I was able to lure him back to camp while still keeping an eye on you. I've been waiting for you to get up since then. I nod numbly. I see. Piper looks at me in obvious discomfort, and at several moments before she speaks again. That wound healer is potent, but not infallible. Is that what matters right now? Of course that matters. Why do you need to ask? Because I want to know what you're thinking of doing. Well, it would make sense if we headed back to the city and got you to a doctor. Maybe for me, but not for the other half of people out here. We can't leave January with those hunters, and Key could get into trouble on their own.
You're not wrong.
I can't disagree, but I want to leave the decision up to you. It'd be pretty hard to justify forcing someone in your position to keep going against their will. Oh, I understand now. It is fine. I can manage. We have to find them. Piper smiles warmly. All right then, if you're sure. Yes, I'm sure. I appreciate the concern.
Don't worry about it.
Don't mention it. Right. She turns to where Lewis is tied not far from us. I'll get Lewis ready. We'll need to ride if we're going to catch up. You should drink one of our water bottles while I'm doing that. The blood you lost is going to leave you dehydrated. Hey, sweet Caroline. I make a small noise to acknowledge her. I intend to search the carriage for one, but notice a full water bottle within arm's reach. She must have put this aside for me. Feeling somewhat emotional again, I pick up the bottle. I move to open it with my right hand. Only, I can't. Grimacing, I set it down, open it with my left, then lift up my mask so I can drink, making sure to keep my back towards Piper. As I drink, I gaze down the way we came and see something glinting in the moonlight. This mystery is good enough motivation for me to finally get to my feet. Good reading a loud voice. Thought about doing ACX, recording books for Audible. It is actually, like, recording audiobooks is actually a lot of work. I finish my water and make my way over to the object. A lump forms in my throat. It's January's monocle and opera glasses. They must have been left behind when they carried him off. The monocle is totally shattered, but the opera glasses seem to be alright. I pick them up and stare at them until I hear Piper coming this way with Lewis. Then I tuck them away in the pocket of my cloak. Thank you, Life with Ron, for 5 more gift memberships. And congratulations to Jaya, Calicat, ML Matt, Trueblood, and Diana Lynn. So 2 people who do come in regularly. Recording is a lot of work. Yeah, for a living, we'd be good at it. So Callie is a regular here, and Diana Lynn is fairly regular. So lucky for them. Glad for them. Piper walks up beside me. I nod at her. Let's go. Piper nods as well, then climbs up onto Lewis' back with some difficulty because of her dress. Once she's situated, she reaches down and helps me up. I settle in behind her and wrap my arms tightly around her waist. You okay there? I'll be fine. I'm sure of it. She chuckles, but doesn't respond again. She takes on a more serious look and commands Lewis to move forward. He obeys and starts galloping off down the same path everyone else took. We ride through the rest of the night without ceasing once. With only the 2 of us to carry, Lewis is able to gallop through the forest at an astounding pace. As the sun begins to rise, we found ourselves in a steep rocky pass. Lewis had no choice but to slow his pace, but when he stops almost completely, I look over to Piper's shoulder to see why. Stopped in the middle of the trail is Key, seemingly waiting for us to make it over to them. Piper pulls Lewis up alongside them and dismounts, helping me down as well. I am somewhat concerned with how they're going to react. We can't be using Lewis like that anymore. He makes too much noise. From now on, we're all walking. Piper gives her coyest smile yet.
Is that so?
That's all you have to say? I wonder if you were expecting us to follow you. Of course. Why would you start obeying my orders now? Key is clearly exhausted, but they do their best to put real, good-natured feeling into their words. I'd like to say something as well, but no words come to mind. All I can do is think about how being back together with them is a relief. I notice their eyes straight to my wrist, and they cringe slightly. Jamie, No, there's no time now. We've still got to find January. Let's move. Piper and I both nod, and together we trek as quickly and quietly as we can, as quickly and quietly down the trail as we can. After a little while, we end up stumbling upon our second campsite. Seeing the familiar grounds makes me gasp. After all of that, we're nearly exactly where we were just 1 day into the journey. I can hardly believe it. Key seems to realize the same thing and sighs. That must have been how these goons caught up to us. These smaller paths were so much faster. So it seems. Still, choosing to take the paths a carriage could go down instead of going through these ruins on foot was the only sane choice, no matter how things worked out. Key wrinkles their nose at this comment, then abruptly goes serious. I hear voices. I strain my ears and soon hear them myself. All 3 of us duck into some nearby brush to hide. We peer ahead of us, and I see a campsite only a stone's throw away from ours. Trinette and her goons are standing around their modest campsite, and I can see January near them tied to one of the dead tree trunks. His head is hanging forward awkwardly, so I assume he is still unconscious. I can feel the tension in Key and Piper beside me, tension I feel as well. For a moment we remain in place watching to see what might happen. It looks as though the 3 are having a conversation, or at least Trinette is speaking to them. Piper pulls slightly on my cloak to catch my attention without alarming me and whispers slowly. Trinette's going to rest. After she says this, Trinette enters one of the simple tents that's been set up. The flap is facing towards January, so she can watch him even while she's inside. With some information gathered, we retreat back to our old camp. Piper continues relaying what she learned once she feels we're in a comfortable distance away. They've been taking turns having short breaks. It's Trinette's time to nap, but we won't have long before she gets up again.
Oh?
I didn't catch any of that. Do you just have super hearing, or can you read lips?
Well,
The second one. I can pick out most of the common words. I rub my right arm with my remaining hand. Knowing Trinette is sleeping is more frustrating than anything else. She's right there, and yet... Even so, it wouldn't be possible to sneak into the camp without being spotted by one of the goons. Once they yell for her, that would be it for us. Agreed. We wouldn't be able to do so much as untie January before we'd be dead, whether she's asleep now or not.
That makes 3. That makes 3. That makes 3.
Oh, that was Key speaking. Good. As much as I'm sure we all want to get January back, we can't walk into that line of fire again. We'll stick with the original plan for now. Just watch and see if we can find out where they're taking him. Without other options, we head back into the thicket near Trinette's camp. As soon as we have a clear view of the camp, I thought I risked giving our position away by making a noise out of shock. It takes me a moment to realize I was able to successfully stifle my gasp, and the small sounds came from Piper and Key. I cannot blame them for it, considering the unexpected occurrence. Across the way, still tied to a tree, January is awake, and with him is Trinette's gun floating in front of his face. Slowly he moves parts of the gun around. I know so little about such weapons that I have difficulty understanding what's happening. Finally, I get a grasp on the situation when a strange compartment is pulled down from one side of the gun, and 5 tiny chunks of metal are lifted out of it. He disarmed it! Anger crosses January's face as the sound of a goon approaches. He flings the bullets far off into the woods, but he's unable to carry the heavier gun as far. It ends up left on the ground in front of Trinette's tent. With no time left, January lets his head drop again, faking unconsciousness. The goon appears and walks by apparently without noticing anything. I almost feel like laughing. Just then there's another noise, and soon we see the second goon passing near us. We had been so focused on watching January, we let them get so close. Without hesitation, Key and Piper lunge forward and drag the man into the thicket. Key holds his arms, I clasp my hand over his mouth, and Piper puts her arms around his neck in a chokehold. Who are all these people? They're people who subscribed at one point, but never show up in chat. He struggles for a few seconds, then goes limp. I look up to see if our attack was noticed. There is some stirring in Trinette's tent, but she doesn't come out. After a sigh of relief, we huddle together once more, trying to plan our next move. But we can barely get a word out before suddenly the first goon yells for Trinette to wake up. She emerges from her tent now, looking grim. She then sees her gun at the door of her tent, and takes on an even worse expression. She picks it up and turns to the goon. What happened? My partner's been out of sight for longer than they should have. There should be no reason for it. Trinette scans the area, and when her eyes pass over our hiding place, they instantly stop. I think she sees us. My heart starts racing, and I act without thinking. You two go for the goon. Before they can question me, I burst out of the thicket and charge for Trinette. The goon yells at me, telling me to stop, which is promptly ignored. I also hear Piper and Key following close behind. That strengthens my resolve. Trinette doesn't look worried over our somewhat surprise attack. She raises her gun and steps towards me. The urge to laugh returns. She aims at my head first, then after what seems to be a moment of consideration, lowers it to my torso. She waits only a moment more, and when I don't show any sign of stopping, she pulls the trigger. This time nothing happens. The useless click of her weapon causes her to lose focus temporarily, and stare down at it, eyes wide and mouth open. She looks back up at me and takes another second of consideration, raising her hands to prepare for a physical fight. But ultimately, she returns her arms to their normal position and waits for me to arrive. When I reach her, I throw my knee and all my weight into her stomach. The blow doubles her over, and she falls to her hands and knees. Coughing, she manages to look up at me with an almost bemused expression. Piper and Keir sit on my side after finishing up a fight with the other goon. Her only response is hanging her head and sighing slightly. I see a large branch near me, and so picking it up, I give the bounty hunter a solid whack on the head. She drops like a log, not moving again. Piper leans down and checks, nodding in approval.
You did well.
Yep, she's out. Nice work. With Trinette dealt with, I look over to January. The ropes tying him down are are glowing a familiar light. He begins to move forward with the bonds falling away around him. As he reaches us, he uses one hand to rub the traces of blood off his face, and the other hand to wipe one of his eyes.
You all came.
Well, what else were we supposed to do? How did he do that thing with a gun? He gives a sheepish smile.
Truthfully, my family owns a few, and all I could think about was that I never wanted to see it used again. I would have destroyed it utterly had I the power.
I am equally impressed with your little rope trick just now. Makes me think Lewis had some help getting free earlier.
Ah, yes, that. I did fiddle with his harness a bit. I could relate to being held back by something and thought it might be better off for us if he was loose.
Impressive.
And it worked. January sighs with relief, smiling even more broadly.
I am glad.
I was so worried.
It's good to have him back. I smile myself and walk closer to him. I pull out the opera glasses, offering them to him with a nod. Hello, January. I have something of yours. His smile softens when he sees them.
Thank you.
When he reaches down to accept the glasses, his eyes land on the rest of what's down there, including my right wrist. He freezes in place. The fingers previously open to pick up what he had lost, shrink into a fist.
Your hand. Is it all right?
I mean, you'd have to ask Key. They're the ones who cut it off. You'd have to ask them if the hand is all right. I don't know what they did with it after they cut it off. The way he is grimacing makes it clear he already suspects the worst. I wish I could tell him he was wrong. It's gone, actually. He takes a step back, looking horrified.
Oh no. How could...
His words catch in his throat, and he wraps his arms around his torso as he begins to shake.
I am sorry.
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have...
He seems more to be berating himself than talking to me. Piper and Key look around uncertainly, like feeling similar pity for me. It is fine. I have another hand. January continues to shiver and murmur soft reproaches to himself. With seemingly no other option, I walk over and put the opera glasses into his hand myself. He accepts them, but not without closing his eyes tightly so as not to look at me. It strikes me that a change in subject would likely be for the best. I was thinking, we should probably tie up those three up before they regain consciousness. Key nods and, taking charge, orders that we begin with Trinette. Piper retrieves the ropes that were used on January and we get to work. It doesn't take long to have all three bounty hunters trussed up to one of the trees, still unconscious. Okay, now we have to plan our next move. My first thought is to get some food and some sleep. Sound good? I wouldn't argue with that. I wonder what kind of food Trinette's got. January says nothing, standing off to one side. I'll watch the hunters. Everyone else start looking for food. With no reason to complain, we spread out, and I pick up a big sack that's been left by a bedroll. Pulling it open, all I find is various tools. This is the last thing we need right now. I flip the top of the bag closed in irritation when January speaks up.
I think I've found something. It appears they have packaged food similar to our own.
Piper strolls over and takes one of the packages. How nice for us. This is probably the best kind of packaged food you could find. I can tell Piper was trying to lighten the mood with her tone, but January's returned smile is small and looks forced. Still, I don't see any fresh food. I certainly didn't find any food at all. Well, that's still better than nothing. Bring the bag of food over here. Piper picks up the whole sack and drags it over to Key. Hey, Dainty. Key immediately starts digging into it and stuffing their coat pockets with packages. They must notice our staring because they pause to speak. We don't want anything to happen to these supplies too. The last thing we need is to run out of food. From now on, I'm always keeping some extra packages on me. That's actually a good point. I take a few packages myself and place them in the now empty pocket of my cloak, just in case.
What do you mean? Is something wrong with the carriage?
After Lewis got loose, he full force kicked the carriage right into a thick row of trees. It's basically a pile of splinters now. His shoulders droop, and I imagine he's feeling responsible for that as well.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Don't worry.
Don't worry about it. We're all still alive and even back together. That's the best we could have hoped for. Anyways, we should eat now while we have a chance. And they lead by example by plopping on the ground and ripping open one of the packages. The rest of us sit as well, each taking a food package. I stare at mine in dismay. I never realized just how important 2 hands were. This is even worse than the water bottle. Fortunately, Piper leans over and pulls the package open for me. I turn to thank her, but she's already standing again. I better go find Lewis. Someone's got to make sure he hasn't wandered off. Key starts to get up, setting their package to the side. Let me go with you. We should stay in groups.
I'm fine.
You should stay and watch Trinette. You're a police officer, after all. Anyone else want to volunteer? I say nothing and give January a look. He seems to understand me.
I will accompany you, Piper. I would be happy to be of help.
Piper seems satisfied, and the two of them walk off into the thicket. Key raises their eyebrows at me and waits for them to get out of earshot. I figured you'd volunteer to go with her. Well, I was about to, but I wanted to give January a chance to do something. You know how he is. Sure.
Thank you.
Hey, listen. I wanted to thank you for what you did earlier. Their voice sounds strained with emotion. I've never seen them have a difficult time being able to speak before. I can't make it up to you. I know that. I'm just sorry I couldn't have done a better job. It wasn't your fault. I say it earnestly, despite still sounding drained. That's not really true. Even though others suggested ideas, everything was ultimately my decision. If I had made better choices, this would never have happened. I don't want to make this all about me, but I gotta say how it is. Really, don't worry about it. I won't keep apologizing for what happened, but I am going to keep thanking you for it. I can't help laughing. What's the difference?
Come on.
That should be obvious. The first way brings negativity by focusing on the thing they did wrong. Instead, by complimenting you, I can bring you up by focusing on something you did that was very right. Oh, I see. You don't have to do either. It's all right. We both go quiet then. Soon Piper and January return with Lewis in tow. Key and I welcome them back. Lewis trots into the camp and starts snuffling around, looking for something interesting, I guess. He was right where we'd left him. Now we can eat in peace. We all settle again on the ground and eat our meals in silence for a little while. I thought all packaged food was basically the same, but even I can tell this tastes better.
Seems like it.
Trinette likes to keep employee morale high. That seems like something the police would want to do as well. I see Key redden a little at my comment. Insulting the police force's level of quality never fails to fluster them. I mean, am I wrong? Police officers can keep their spirits up without having to use fancy foods. Then would you rather eat the kind we had before? I can just imagine how big a frown Key has right now. No, this is fine. After the meal is finished, Key stands before the rest of us.
Now.
We'll sleep in shifts. I want at least 2 people awake at all times. I'll start watching first then. I got plenty of sleep last night. January rubs his head with a hard smile.
Pardon me?
I also had quite a bit of rest, technically.
True. You and Piper need rest the most, so take a nap.
Be assured, we will make a ruckus enough to wake you if there's anything out of the ordinary.
Alright, you two can take watch. One of you keep an eye on the bounty hunters, while the other keeps an eye on the surrounding woods. Stay in the open and don't go near the thickets where someone could jump you. Piper smiles sarcastically.
Interesting.
What a good thought. Where did you ever get that idea?
Donuts? Donuts are good. Key simply waves one hand at Piper over the comment. Let's get some sleep. Remember to wake us in a few hours.
We will.
Piper signals her goodbye, and they each retire to a different tent. Once we're alone, January speaks to me softly.
What do you think?
I am fine with either position. What would you prefer to do?
I'd rather stay here and keep an eye on them.
Certainly. I'll be off then.
Take care. Another painful smile.
You as well.
The day drags on without much of anything happening, which is a relief. Key and Piper wake from their naps and give January and I a chance to rest. Sleep comes more easily than I was expecting, and by the time I wake up, it's late afternoon. Crawling out of my tent, I see Piper, Key, and January all sitting together. Piper notices me and motions in my direction.
Hey.
Come over and take a seat, Jamie. Without replying, I take a seat amongst the others. Key nods at me before speaking.
Now.
It's time to decide what's going to happen now. I think we can all guess that it's not going to be possible for the whole group to go anywhere. Now that we have Trinette and her crew in our custody, we are responsible for their safety, and also for making sure they don't escape. Considering our current position here at the halfway point, it just wouldn't be possible to bring them along. So, we've got to decide who's going to stay behind to keep an eye on them, and who will continue on. Not to mention decide if we're going back to Mir to get help directly, or to the safe house to use a radio there. And Jamie, we looked for Trinette's radio while you two were asleep. We found nothing, and Trinette's definitely not going to tell us what happened to it. When we explained that to January after he first got up, he told us about the radios at a safe house. They're good enough to reach all the way to the city. I will stay here. I wouldn't provide anything of use on the trip. Key winces and looks as though they have quite a bit to say about my comment. However, they keep their response brief. If that's what you want.
I must go to the safe house if that is our destination. Not for myself, mind you. The lock can be opened with a key, but I do not have it with me. The only way to get inside would be for me to use a special trick.
Good to know. The last thing I want is to keep you right next to the potential abductors if I don't have to. With bandits and possibly more bounty hunting groups out there, it wouldn't be safe for you to go alone. But we need to get someone to take those people off our hands. Fast. Having two people go would slow the pace.
Certainly.
Very well. I make no objection to remaining here.
Thank you. In that case, it'll be me or Piper riding Lewis back to the city. The rest of the group will be holding down the camp until backup arrives. You spoke my mind. I haven't been able to figure if I should stay or go, however. I know Trinette, which could help in guarding her, but I'm also the better rider. I might not be as good as you, but I could manage the ride if I had to. Still, I get your point. Neither of those options are the best. I silently agree. Even if it may not have reached far enough to contact Mir, not knowing what happened to her radio is frustrating. How could it have vanished? I spoke to her the same day she attacked. Wait, what about the gadabout? Everyone says what in unison to my thinking out loud. We abandoned the gadabout in this area. If Key could repair it with Trinette's tools, then we could all walk with it while keeping the goons in tow. This way we wouldn't have to go all the way to the city, just close enough for the radio to get back in range. I am faced with 3 blank stares as the others take a few moments to process the new possibilities. Piper turns to Key, looking almost excited. How long would it take you to repair? Key responds with a similarly pleased look.
All right.
Not long. While I was looking through Trinette's stuff for weapons, I noticed the bag of tools Jamie found earlier. With those, I could have it repaired by tomorrow morning, early. It would only take a few hours to ride back into radio range. Even if one of us could force Lewis to keep running from now into the night, it'd hardly be faster.
All right, then.
Well, looks like we have a plan. January gives a small smile as well.
I am glad.
That's truly fantastic.
Key stands while laughing. Actually laughing.
I'll take care of it.
Alright. I'm sure the 3 of you can work out guard duty details on your own. I have work to do. Hold on now. Don't get too ahead of yourself. It would be safer if we brought the gadabout to this camp so we can all stay within sight of each other. Key deflates slightly at Piper's suggestion. Good point. The gadabout is in quite a thicketed area, if I remember correctly. I can carry the machine if a path is made clear, or I could bend obstacles out of the way so others can more easily push it through. Unfortunately, I cannot do both at the same time. That's a relief. I was starting to worry I was lying to myself about you still needing our help. If you've got some limitations, I guess I'm not totally irrelevant. None of you could ever be irrelevant. I wouldn't get anywhere without you. Okay. Key stands somewhat awkwardly, not expecting January to respond so seriously. Piper doesn't let the uncomfortable silence last for long, however. I think Key and I could move it just fine if you made a path. Would you stay here and keep watch, Jamie? Yes, I will do that. Alright, then let's not be slow about this. Piper leads the way into the woods. As Key follows, they glance back at me before passing from view, and January smiles slightly as he too disappears into the brush. Not sure how much is left. Is this whole game just reading? Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, it's a visual novel. It is a visual novel, Morris, so, yeah. Lots of reading, and then sometimes you get to make a choice. My name is Jamie, so this keeps messing with me. Fair. I chose the name when you weren't here, so sorry. Sorry for making it confusing, but you weren't here when I chose the name, so... On an amusing note, the name I chose this name, the name Jamie, because it's the name of the default name of the main character in a different visual novel that the same studio made. The one that this dude appears in. You can't see him because it's small, but I have a little plush from. Oh, speaking of plushes. For those who watched my, what's it? Goodbye Volcano High. For those who watched me play Goodbye Volcano High, the Fang plushie is going to be here in, like, May. Notice Jamie is starting to get popular. I mean, it's always been fairly popular. Non-binary Harvest Moon romance novel. Spelled Jamie like the Bionic Woman. Yeah, you are old. My name is Mrs. Morris Reed, so I need to be sectioned. What plushie? Fang. The main character from Goodbye Volcano High. They're making a plushie out of them. And I decided to support it. I decided to back the plushie, just because, you know. Why do you just read whatever words you want sometimes? I said rival. Didn't I say romance rival? Favorite song by the Feeders is Bionic Girl. So yeah. Jamie like the Lannister. So yeah, sometime in May I will get a Fang plushie. I said novel? Oh, did I say novel? Whoops. I meant rival. Uh, One second, somebody sent me a message. I'll listen to the message in a minute. Anyone ever called me Jamie? My mom sometimes. My mom does sometimes still call me Jamie. Alright. So we'll end here for tonight. Next week we'll definitely be finishing this. Honestly, not sure how much is left. Probably only like an hour. But... But I honestly don't feel up for another hour. I don't remember how much is left after this, though. I don't think that's too much, but enough that I don't really feel like continuing. So next week we'll finish this up and, I don't know. Do you know what you'll play after? Could go with Women of Zal. After we finish this, I'll sort of talk about the options for the next one. So, thanks for coming. And good night, everybody.